Mars, the god of war, the great protector of Rome. But before the empire, before the republic, before Rome itself, Mars was the god of the Latin Warband. Long before legions marched in formation, before the Senate dictated the fate of nations, there were warbands. Bands of young warriors, brothers, bound by blood and steel, roaming the ancient lands of Latium. These were not mere soldiers. They were Männerbünde. Sacred warrior bands sworn to hardship, violence, and trial. They did not wait for war to come to them. They sought it, embraced it, and through it, they forged themselves into men. At the heart of this warband stood their god, Mars. Mars was no mere symbol of battle. He was the very essence of a warrior spirit. He called men to war, tested their strength, and demanded they prove themselves worthy of their ancestors. It was under his gaze that the Latin warbands laid the foundation for what would one day become Rome itself. And from this sacred tradition, Mars gave the world his greatest sons, Romulus and Remus, the divine twins. The Romans were not an island separate from their kin. They were one of the great Indo-European tribes, part of the vast migrations that gave rise to the Gauls, Celts, Germans, and Greeks. They shared the same blood, the same warrior tradition, the same sacred order of men who knew that strength and honor were the only paths to glory. Mars was more than just a god of Rome. He was a god of the warband. And like all warband gods, he was the divine patron of those who sought mastery in combat and proved themselves through trial and blood. This is why, when Rome rose, Mars stood second only to the great Skyfather himself, Jupiter. The Roman war machine, the greatest the ancient world had ever seen, was not built by merchants or philosophers or idle men, but by warriors. Warriors who knew that power must be taken, discipline must be earned, and skill must be mastered. It is no coincidence that we call the way of the warrior martial art. The very word martial comes from Mars, the warband god. It is a relic of our past, an echo of our ancestors who trained, who fought, who conquered. When we speak of the Männerbünde, the warrior brotherhood, we invoke the same sacred traditions that Mars himself once watched over. And so, when we demand martial excellence, we are not merely training for battle. We are fulfilling an ancient duty. We are forging men worthy of the gods, worthy of our ancestors, worthy of the future. Mars still watches. The warband still calls. So who among you will answer? To follow in the footsteps of Mars is to embrace discipline. Unyielding, unrelenting, absolute. Every moment, every action, from the time you rise to the time you lay down for sleep, must be a calculated ritual. It is the greatest Aryan tradition of them all, the forging of order from chaos. First within yourself, then in the world around you. Mars was not a god of reckless violence. He was not a mindless force of destruction. He was discipline incarnate. His warbands did not win by blind rage, but through strategy, precision, and the mastery of self. To be strong is not enough. You must be controlled. This is the foundation of martial excellence. Your body must be trained, hardened, sharpened into a weapon. Your mind must be disciplined, every thought ordered, every impulse brought to heel. You do not eat for pleasure, you eat for fuel. You do not train for vanity, you train for dominance. You do not rest for indulgence, you rest to prepare for the next battle. This discipline extends beyond the body. Your word must be iron. Your will must be unbreakable. Your honor must be unquestionable. The men of Mars did not waver. They did not hesitate, and they did not make excuses. Their lives were rituals of control, preparation, and execution. To demand discipline of yourself is to master chaos, first within, then without. Before you can command others, you must command yourself. Before you can impose order upon the world, you must impose it upon your own body and mind. This is the path of the Männerbünde. This is the path of Mars. Do you have the will to walk it? All things war bear the name of Mars. Of course, the Romans knew this. Mars the Avenger. They named the very month in which their armies marched to battle after him. His name echoes through time, carved into the legacy of every warrior who has ever taken up steel in defense of his tribe. Mars, Ares, Tor. These are not merely gods. They are archetypes. They are the reflection of what a man must become. War is not a thing of the past. It is not a relic of ancient history. It is eternal. And if you were to be a man worthy of your ancestors, then you must prepare. A young man should be trained in hand-to-hand combat from childhood. It is the foundation upon which the rest of his life is built. Before he learns weapons, he must learn his own body, to fight, to grapple, to strike, to endure. The boy who trains in combat sports like wrestling, boxing, and jiu-jitsu becomes the man who understands discipline, pain, and perseverance. He learns to stand his ground, to embrace the struggle, to fight when the fight is necessary. It is not about mindless violence. It is about mastery of self, of body, and of spirit. A boy who grows up knowing how to take a hit and keep moving forward is a boy who will not break when the world bears down on him. But strength alone is not enough. Skill must be cultivated. As the boy matures, his training must evolve. By the time he reaches adolescence, he should already be proficient in striking, grappling, and endurance. Now, it is time for weapons. First, he must learn the weapons of his ancestors. The throwing axe, which teaches precision, strength, and control. It's a weapon of power. Then the bow, which teaches patience, focus, and accuracy. It is the weapon of the hunt. And finally, the spear, the timeless weapon of warriors, simple, yet deadly. These are not just tools of war, they are lessons. Each weapon teaches something different. It teaches commitment, patience, and control. Now, as he enters his teenage years, he must move into the weapons of the modern world. First, the pistol, the foundation of modern combat, close quarters dominance, the ability to react under pressure. Then, the rifle, the true test of accuracy, range, and discipline, a tool of war, but also a tool of survival. Finally, the combination of both, because a warrior must be able to fight at any distance, with any weapon, and in any scenario. We must challenge our sons. They should not merely learn these weapons in theory. They should train with them, compete with them, and master them. Combat sports must be a part of their growth. They should fight in controlled environments in the ring and on the mat, so that when the day comes and they are called to fight in the real world, they do not hesitate. Understand this, the male brain is still developing well into the mid-20s. This means the goal of all training in youth is not perfection, but development. Combat training must be included into the growth and development of young children in the same way you teach them math and sciences. A young man must be pushed. He must struggle. He must be forced to face hardship, pain, and exhaustion, because that is how he is shaped. The point of training is not just skill, it is resilience. A boy who has fought, trained, and mastered his own fear, by the time he reaches manhood, is a boy who will not crumble when the weight of the world presses down upon him. Brothers, we do not live in an age of swords and shields. No amount of hand-to-hand combat can stop a bullet. This is the truth, and to ignore it is foolish. Martial arts are essential for discipline, confidence, and personal defense, but firearms are the great equalizer. And a warrior who does not understand modern weaponry is defenseless. The lesson is simple. Train hand-to-hand combat for life. Master weapons, absolutely. You should be able to fight with your hands when necessary. You should be able to fight with a blade, an axe, a spear, if the time comes. But above all, you must master the firearm. A rifle, a pistol, these are not tools of cowards. They are the weapons of modern warriors, and to refuse to train with them is to embrace defeat. If the great Harold Hardrada was alive today, he would look like a Delta Force operator. Gentlemen, accept this reality for what it is. Fantasy is for children. Strength without skill is useless. Skill without strength is fragile. A true warrior owns both. Train your body. Lift, run, grow stronger every day. Train your mind. Study strategy, history, philosophy. Learn the ways of war. Train your spirit. Never bow, never beg. Stand firm no matter the odds. The world is dangerous. It always has been. The question is not whether you will face hardship, but whether you'll be prepared. Will you rise as a warrior, or will you crumble like the weak men around you? The choice is yours. Master combat, master weapons, master yourself. This is the way of Mars, the way of warriors, the way of men. Some of you may only now be coming to the realization that these skills, the discipline, the training, the mastery of mind and body, were instilled in you from childhood. Perhaps you had fathers who understood, who prepared you without words, who led you down the path without explanation. Or perhaps you have come to this knowledge later, through trial, through hardship, through the cold clarity of experience. Accept this. But also accept this. It is never too late to learn, never too late to achieve mastery. Whether you were raised in this way or have come to it now, your duty remains the same. Lead by example. Because the Männerbünde solution is not one of years, it is one of centuries. It is not about us. It is about our sons. One day it will be they who wear the crown. It will be they who carry the banner, who wield the weapons, who finish the temples and nations that we have only begun to build. And that is the greater truth. We had our time. We fought our battles. We made our mistakes. We bled and struggled and endured. But now it is their turn. Our task is not to rule, but to prepare the rulers. Not to fight for ourselves, but to train the warriors who will fight after us. A man's greatest duty is not to himself, but to the generations that follow. Even the childless must honor the tribe and prepare for the warband. This is the path of kings. What we build now, the trials we face now, the skills we pass down now, will shape the world long after we are gone. And so, we ask ourselves, what will we leave behind? Will we leave our sons unprepared, ignorant, weak in a world that devours the unready? Or will we forge them into something greater than ourselves, the kings, the leaders, the men of discipline who will complete what we have started? Brothers, the answer is clear. Our legacy is not what we do for ourselves, but what we pass on. And so we build, we train, we teach. Not for us, but for them. This is not a journey with an end. This is not a prize to be won. This is a path, and it must be walked for life. The road to martial excellence, to self-mastery, to true leadership is not something that can be achieved in a single season. It must be practiced over years, honed like a blade that is never allowed to dull. It is not about motivation. Motivation is fleeting, a fire that burns hot but fades just as quickly. This path demands discipline, unyielding, unwavering discipline. Discipline is mental, not emotional. It is not a feeling, but a decision. A contract with yourself that is upheld whether you feel like it or not. The weak chase motivation. The strong build discipline. And those that walk this path without faltering, those who submit themselves to the trials of Mars, they become something greater. The frenzy of youth gives way to the order and wisdom of age. This is the great cycle, the turning of wild energy into tempered strength. The ancients expressed this through Dionysus and Apollo, two forces locked in an internal rhythm, chaos and order, passion and reason, fury and mastery, one giving way to the other. But some gods, some great forces, do not divide these aspects between two figures within their respective traditions. They embody the whole. Odin, Wotan, the one-eyed god. He is both the frenzied warrior and the wise king, both the blood-soaked warband leader and the aged master of runes. He does not discard the warrior as he grows older, he evolves him. This is the path of the Männerbünde. The warband, at first, is a wild force, a chaotic storm of youth, blood, and fury. But under discipline, under leadership, under trial, it becomes something more. A warband becomes an army becomes a nation. This is the fundamental truth. A nation is violence, structured and mastered. The weak pretend otherwise, cowering behind illusions of peace. But a state, any state, is born of force. A people survive only so long as they can wield power. The unprepared are conquered, the untrained are ruled. So master violence, master order, forge the warband into a kingdom, and yourself into its rightful king. Among the Indo-European peoples, those who mastered the warrior's path did not remain mere soldiers. The greatest warriors became priests, and the greatest of these priests became kings, men who in their youth gave themselves over to the frenzied war god, the god of the Männerbünde, and let him shape them. They fought, they struggled, they embraced the fury of battle, and in doing so they forged themselves in fire. They were tested in ways that broke lesser men, and they emerged hardened leaders, warlords, conquerors. But war was never the end, it was the foundation. In their later years, these men matured into the leaders of their people. The discipline they forged in war became the wisdom they ruled with. The same hands that once swung the sword now carried the staff of the elder, guiding their people not through force, but through respect. Respect earned through a lifetime of trials and triumphs. They led the rituals and ceremonies, standing as the masters of the sacred traditions. But beneath the robes of the priest, beneath the symbols of kingship, they remained what they had always been: warriors. Now not soldiers, but generals. They did not rule by decree alone. They ruled because they had proven themselves. This is a road you will walk until your last breath. The destination is the afterlife you have earned. In your youth, the Warband will be your home. It will shape you, test you, forge you. You will learn through struggle, hardship, and battle, side by side with your brothers, bound by steel and blood. But as you age, as you harden, as you gain wisdom, your role will change. You will no longer be the reckless warrior at the front of the charge. You will adapt, evolve, and transition. The priest king is the final form of the warrior. The man who in his youth gave himself to the warband must become the elder who guides his people. You will preserve the myths, legends, and hard-won wisdom of your people. You will lead the rituals, uphold the old ways, ensure that your sons and their sons after them never forget who they are. The great cycle must continue. The tribe must move forward. And when your time comes, when you have given all you can give, when your trials are at last complete, you will meet your gods, not as a beggar, but as an equal. The road is long. The trials are endless, and most will fail. Will you walk the path? Until next time.